Alright, Q&A number 3. Before we begin, just a little something though. It seems like you guys are split half and half on the issue of the Q&A visuals. Half of you like seeing my reactions and my facial expressions as I talk about stories and whatnot, while the other half of you like watching gameplay. So what I think I'm going to do is go a bit back and forth on the matter. Sometimes if I think the discussions don't warrant a webcam or anything, I'll just show gameplay and vice versa. But for now, let's go ahead and get into this week's questions. How do you actually know all this information you're giving us to become better League of Legends players? Did you discover it yourself, or did somebody tell it to you the same way that you're telling all of us? That's a good question. All of the directly League of Legends related content, like, just game sense and, knowledge about the meta or about the esports scene or whatever, that was all just gained by playing the game and watching the, watching the competitive events. I didn't, I know a lot of people go to pros for lessons, or at least they used to. I'm not sure how many people still do it now. But a lot of people used to go to pros for lessons, and a lot of people, nowadays a lot of people buy Cider Helm's ebook, or they still go to pros or video makers or someone for lessons, or they'll buy subscription services to something like Elo Buff. And I don't necessarily agree with all that. I don't want to harp on any of those guys or any of the people in particular, but they're all just telling you stuff that you're going to learn naturally anyway. Now, watching our videos or paying them for, whatever service they're providing, that definitely will speed up the process for you. If you're, let's say that there's a random player and he thinks kills are more valuable than CS, and he plays for a year without realizing that CS is more valuable than kills. If someone told him at the beginning of the year that CS is more valuable than kills, then he would, he wouldn't have wasted that year playing essentially the wrong way. So I guess some information like that can help, and that's a very obvious example, and it gets really there's a lot of nitty-gritty details that you might not necessarily understand unless somebody tells you. But you're going to learn all of this anyway as long as you have a good mindset. You have a good learning mindset where you're accepting the blame for your mistakes, you're looking for the flaws in your play. You're going to learn anything that anybody can pay you, or anything that anybody's going to tell you for you paying them money, whatever it's lessons or I guess Elo Buff or subscription services to websites like that might be a little bit, you might not ever realize your win ratios with certain items on certain champions or something, but that's not even necessarily, you don't need that to, to become a better player. So I'm kind of going off topic here, but I don't necessarily agree with people who do that. You're going to learn all of this anyway, and that's how I learned all of it. All the stuff, how I sometimes bring a topic into a video, like science or philosophy being the two big ones that stand out in my mind. I just learned all that stuff by being curious, by reading books in high school on my own, by paying attention in classes. If I had a question like, what evolutionary purpose does the emotion anger serve, then I would look it up on the internet and I would, read about it for 30 minutes and then I would know. And that's how I learned all about that. But all the League of Legends stuff, I just learned by playing the game. Second question, how can I beat Yorick? He always seems to dominate lower leagues and divisions, and not many people have a good understanding of how to deal with him. What are his weaknesses? Okay, how to beat Yorick. First, you want to pick a champion with a decent amount of mobility, preferably with some sustain or a shield or something. The big two ones, in my mind, coming out are Riven and Aurelia. Riven, it's a little bit iffy. You kind of have to be a really good Riven or play against a really bad Yorick to really do well in lane with Riven. But Aurelia being the really big one because she has sustain, she has a lot of damage, especially true damage, and that's good because Yorks often build a lot of magic resist and armor. And her Q allows her to manipulate the lane very, very effectively, especially I'll get into this right now. So when you're laning against a Yorick, what you want to do is use the brush a lot. If you go into the brush, his ghouls will not follow you in there. His ghouls will go to the nearest minion, and they won't ever aggro onto you again. So you can lose the ghoul aggro by just going into the brush, and that makes laning extremely easy if you have if you have, again, someone like Aurelia or Riven who has a shield to mitigate some of the damage, or who has some natural sustain to just CS. You can just CS in lane. If he tries to harass you, run into the brush, then you just go back to CSing. You'll be fine late game as Aurelia, and if you get a gank from your jungler, then you should be able to kill Yorick, and if you kill him, then you will be able to 1v1 him, and he won't be able to do anything. He won't be able to harass you anymore, and he'll have a really hard time CSing. And that's the other thing. You want to get ganks on him, regardless as to who you're playing, as to who you pick in lane. He could have counterpicked you. You could have picked Teemo top. Shame on you for picking Teemo, but you could have picked Teemo top, and then they could have picked Yorick. And Yorick just counters Teemo beyond belief. But you can still win the lane if you get your jungler to gank once or twice to get you 1 or 2 kills. You should still be able to 1v1 him, and if you can 1v1 Yorick, then he won't be able to do much. Especially look for ganks if you're playing someone like Jax, or a high damage dealer like that. That will make your life really easy. Just one little gank will set you snowballing to getting fed off him and then carrying your team to winning the game. Or even if you are playing someone like Jax and your teammate or your jungler doesn't gank, or he gets counter jungled and he's behind the whole game, you can still win the game essentially just by staying back and CSing at your tower, CSing when you can. Take teleport back when you get low. Just don't let Yorick kill you, and CS whatever you possibly can, because you'll still be able to do a decent amount late game if you are on someone like Jax or Malphite or something. And as long as you're not feeding Yorick, Yorick won't be able to carry the game himself. That is sort of banking on your team, being smart. But then again, if you were smarter, then you wouldn't have. then you would have picked someone like Aurelia, who can 1v1 Yorick, who can sustain in lane, and who can take advantage of his mistakes. One last point, though, make sure that you take Ignite if you're going to go for kills, and make sure that you take Teleport, as I said, if you're just going to be looking to CS. Ignite, you can't really kill Yorick without Ignite. You can, you always can kill someone, but it becomes extremely difficult if you don't have Ignite, because he will max his E, and he will sustain a lot from his Omen of Famine, I believe it's called. But anyway, enough about Yorick. Let's move on to our final question, which is, how do you make friends and interact with the League of Legends community? Okay, to make friends, I never thought I'd be giving advice on how to make friends, but to make friends, just be the kind of person that you would like to be friends with. That's a classic answer, but it's true. You'll just meet people in normal games, in solo queue, who will be friendly to you, who will do well, and you'll do well, and you'll say, hey, why don't we do a queue? And then you'll have a lifelong friendship. You'll go on adventures together, and and life will just be perfect. But another thing you can do is get really involved in community sites. I believe the League of Legends subreddit has like a Mumble server where a bunch of people play games all the time. Team Solo Mid, all sorts of forums, there's plenty of community fan sites out there. And if you start interacting with them, then you'll find other people to interact with, and you'll find other people to play games with. You have to be like out there, though. If you're looking for friends, you have to make sure that you are communicating in chat, that you are showing that you're a nice, friendly person who someone would want to be friends with, and then you'll find all sorts of friends that you can play with. I hope you all enjoyed. Stay tuned for my next Q&A, though, where I'll be talking about some somewhat important stuff relating to myself and my videos and a bunch of other stuff. Until then, though, thank you all very much for watching. Good luck in solo queue, and have a wonderful day.